The common mistakes people make when handling a stroke. 1. You know, after we cross 40, our bodies become a little like an old clock that's been ticking for decades. It still works, but it doesn't run quite as smoothly as it used to. Over the years, I've met so many patients, and what troubles me the most isn't just the stroke itself, it's how people respond to it. Not because they don't care about their health, but because of small mistakes that carry enormous consequences. The first mistake, and perhaps the most common one, is waiting too long to call 911. So many times when people notice numbness in an arm, a drooping face, or slurred speech, they think, maybe I'm just tired, give it a few minutes, it'll pass. And so they wait. 10 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes hours. But here's the truth. In the world of stroke, time does not wait for anyone. There's one number I want you to remember. Every single minute during a stroke, millions of brain cells can die. Every minute is a piece of memory lost, a step you may never walk again, a word you may never be able to say. And once those brain cells are gone, most of them never come back. I'll never forget one of my patients, a man in his 50s. He was having dinner with his family when suddenly his left arm went weak and his speech became garbled. His son said, "Dad, let me call 911." But the father waved him off. "It's nothing, probably just low blood pressure. Let me finish eating, I'll be fine." They waited. By the time the ambulance arrived, it was too late. He survived, yes, but he spent the rest of his life in a wheelchair, unable to speak normally to his wife and children again. I don't share this story to frighten you, but to help you see it clearly. During a stroke, every second you hesitate, you are losing your chance at recovery. I want you to imagine this. One day you're at home, and suddenly your hand drops a cup. Your words stumble out unclear. What would you do? Would you wait 15 minutes just to see? Or would you pick up the phone and dial 911 right away? I've treated hundreds of stroke patients, and I've seen the difference with my own eyes. Those who arrive at the hospital quickly, within the golden hour, often make incredible recoveries. They can walk again, laugh again, sit with their grandchildren as if nothing happened. But those who arrive too late, they live, but their quality of life changes forever. Sometimes, the line between living a normal life and being bound to a bed is as thin as one phone call. Don't hesitate, don't wait. When you see the signs of a stroke, act immediately. Call for help, because calling too early will never hurt you, but calling too late can cost you everything. I often tell my patients this. If you even suspect a stroke, go. At worst, you've spent some extra time getting checked. At best, you've saved the rest of your life. That's why this mistake, delaying that call for help. 2. Trying to drive yourself to the hospital. You know, one of the things I've seen too many times in my years as a doctor is this. A patient begins to show clear signs of a stroke, slurred speech, weakness in an arm, maybe the face drooping just a little. And instead of calling 911, the family rushes to put them in the car and drive to the hospital. At first glance, it feels like the faster option, doesn't it? After all, the hospital might be only 10 minutes away. But let me tell you why this decision can change everything. An ambulance isn't just a ride, it's a moving emergency room. Inside, there are trained professionals, machines that monitor your heart and oxygen, and medications ready to be used the very moment something goes wrong. Imagine this. If the patient suddenly stops breathing on the way, if the heart stumbles and stops, who's going to help in the backseat of a car? The answer is no one. Those precious minutes can slip away before you even reach the hospital doors. I remember a man in his early 60s brought in by his daughter. She drove as fast as she could, thinking she was saving him time, but halfway there, he lost consciousness. By the time they arrived, we had lost the most crucial window to give him the medication that could have saved his brain. She carried the weight of that choice for years, even though her love for him was never in question. And that's what makes this mistake so heartbreaking. It doesn't come from carelessness. It comes from urgency, from love, from wanting to do the right thing, but not knowing that the better choice was just one phone call away. I want you to picture something. You or someone you love suddenly can't move their hand, can't find the right words. and fear starts rushing in. What would you do? Would you grab the car keys, or would you pick up the phone and dial 911? That one decision can be the difference between walking out of the hospital in a week or never walking again. Here's the truth I've witnessed again and again. When patients arrive by ambulance, we're often already prepared for them before they even enter the ER. The emergency team has been alerted. The stroke unit is standing by. And in many cases, treatment begins the very moment they roll through the door. Compare that to a family driving in. They check in at the front desk, they wait to be processed, and by then, time has already slipped away. Stroke is a race against the clock. The brain does not wait. The safest, fastest, most life-saving option will always be the ambulance, even if the hospital is close, even if you think you can make it. Because with a stroke, things can change in seconds. And the back seat of a car is not where you want to face those changes. So the next time you're faced with that terrifying moment, and I hope you never are, remember this. Love is not about rushing the car out of the driveway. Love in that moment is about reaching for the phone, dialing 3 simple numbers, and giving your loved one the best chance at life. 3. Giving patients medication recklessly. You know, there's something I've seen far too often in the emergency room. Families rush in with their loved one, and in the middle of their panic, they whisper to me, "Doctor, I gave my mom an aspirin right away. I thought it would help thin the blood." Or someone else says, "I gave my dad his blood pressure pills because I was sure high blood pressure was the cause." It sounds reasonable, doesn't it? But the truth is very different. I want you to pause for a moment and imagine this. Out of every 3 stroke cases we see, 1 is caused by bleeding in the brain, a ruptured blood vessel spilling blood inside the skull. Now think about what happens when you give aspirin in that situation. Exactly. It makes the blood thinner, the bleeding worse, the damage far more severe. Sometimes it takes away the chance of recovery altogether. I once treated a patient whose family did exactly that. They loved him so much, they just wanted to help. They thought aspirin was the lifeline. But when we did the brain scan, we saw a large hemorrhage. And in that moment, I could see the shock, the regret in their eyes. They hadn't acted out of carelessness. They acted out of love and fear. So let me ask you, if someone you love suddenly collapses, would you rely on instinct? Or would you trust the doctors who have the training and the tools to know whether it's a clot or a bleed? Because here's the truth. With our own eyes, we simply cannot tell. Medical science is very clear on this. Medication during a stroke should never be decided by family members. Even a tiny pill can mean the difference between recovery and lifelong disability, between life and death. The only thing you should do, as I've shared in earlier stories, is call 911. Get that ambulance. Get your loved one to the right place, with the right team, and the right treatment. I understand. In that terrifying moment, your hands are shaking, your heart is racing, and all you want is to do something right away. But sometimes love is not about rushing in. Sometimes love is patience. It's picking up the phone, calling for help, and trusting the people who know exactly what's happening inside that fragile brain. So please, remember this. Aspirin can save a life during a heart attack, but in the case of a stroke, it can become a double-edged sword. And those blood pressure pills that seem harmless, if given at the wrong moment, they can make things worse. The greatest act of love you can give in that moment isn't slipping a pill into someone's mouth. It's giving them the chance to live by making sure they receive the right care at the right time from the right hands. 4. Letting the patient rest at home. There's something I hear all too often from families sitting across from me. "Doctor, we thought it was just temporary weakness, so we let him rest at home. We never imagined it was a stroke." I want you to pause and picture this. A loved one suddenly slurs their words, the corner of their mouth droops, their hand goes numb, and they can't even hold a glass. You look at them, and deep down you tell yourself, maybe it's just fatigue. Let them rest and they'll be fine. But the truth is very different. With stroke, every minute, every second that passes is precious. Each minute the brain is starved of blood, millions of brain cells die, and once they're gone, we cannot get them back. I remember a man in his early 60s. That morning, his hand felt weak. His wife thought all he needed was a little rest. They waited, 1 hour, then two. By the time he arrived at the hospital, the golden window had closed. The treatment that could have brought him back almost completely was no longer an option. And for the rest of his life, he had to live in a wheelchair. With tears in her eyes, his wife said to me, "If only I had known, if only I had called 911 right away." You see, the greatest mistake we make isn't that we don't love enough. It's believing that love alone can heal. But in the case of stroke, true love means urgent action, calling 911, getting that person to the hospital without hesitation. I want you to remember this. Small signs like a crooked smile, numbness in the hand, slurred speech, these are never just temporary. They are alarms, warning signals from the body. And the best chance of treatment, the golden window, lasts only a few short hours. Once it's gone, the cost is an entire lifetime. So next time you see these signs in someone you care about, please don't let them rest at home. Don't wait. Don't reassure yourself that it will pass. Because with stroke, waiting means losing. And acting quickly, that is the greatest gift of love you can give, the gift of life, and the gift of another chance to live fully. 5. Massage, coin rubbing, or acupuncture on the spot. I've walked into homes where families, out of love and desperation, tried to help their loved one during a stroke with the only tools they knew, massaging the limbs, rubbing with oils, even trying coin rubbing or acupuncture right there on the living room floor. And each time my heart sank. Not because they didn't care, but because their caring cost precious, irreversible minutes. I want you to picture this. A man in his late 60s suddenly collapses, unable to speak clearly. His family gathers around. One person says, "Let's rub his arms, maybe the blood will flow again." Another says, "My neighbor swears by acupuncture, let's try it quickly." Their intentions are pure. But while they are busy doing these things, the brain is starving. Neurons, millions of them, are dying every single minute. By the time the ambulance is called, the golden window for life-saving treatment has slipped away. A patient of mine once told me through tears, "Doctor, if only I hadn't wasted that time, if only I had called for help right away. Maybe my husband would still be walking today." That moment still echoes in my heart, because in stroke care, the difference between walking and a wheelchair, between speaking and silence, between life and death, often comes down to how quickly you get to the hospital. I want to ask you, have you ever found yourself clinging to old remedies because it felt safer than facing the frightening truth? We humans have this instinct to act, to do something with our hands because standing still feels unbearable. But when it comes to stroke, the wisest action is not massaging or scraping the skin. The wisest action is grabbing the phone, dialing 911, and letting modern medicine do what only it can. From my years of experience, I can tell you this with certainty. No traditional method has ever reopened a blocked artery in the brain. No home remedy has ever stopped bleeding in a vessel, but medical science can. We now have clot-busting drugs, procedures to physically remove clots, and treatments that can truly change the outcome, if and only if the patient reaches the hospital in time. So when you hear stories of massage, cupping, or scraping to treat stroke, I want you to remember the faces of those who lost their chance because of those very delays. And then I want you to imagine the alternative. Your loved one sitting beside you months later, smiling, speaking, moving freely, because you chose action over tradition. Please hold on to this truth. In the face of stroke, love is not about what you do with your hands in that moment. Love is in the urgency, in the wisdom of knowing that time is the most powerful medicine of all. Don't waste it. Call for help. That is how you save a life. 6. Giving water or food to a stroke patient. I want to share with you an image I've seen many times throughout my years as a doctor. A loved one suddenly collapses. Their face droops, words stumble out, or maybe they can't speak at all. The family panics. They rush to grab a glass of water, maybe some soup, and in desperation, they try to feed or give the patient a sip, hoping, just hoping that it might help them wake up. That impulse comes from love, from fear, from the need to do something. But I have to be honest with you, sometimes that very act of love can turn into the greatest danger. I want you to picture this. Your spouse has just collapsed. You bring them water, tilt their head back, and gently place the glass to their lips. But instead of going down the right way, the water slips into their windpipe. They cough, choke, their chest heaves, and in that fragile moment, what could have been a chance at survival quickly spirals into tragedy. I have seen patients pass away simply because of one sip of water that seemed so harmless. One of my patients once made this heartbreakingly clear. A woman's husband had a sudden stroke at home. In her panic, she tried to spoon-feed him soup, believing it would help. Instead, he aspirated, food went into his airway, his breathing collapsed, and by the time paramedics arrived, his condition had worsened beyond repair. Later, through tears, she told me, "I only wanted to help him. I never imagined it could hurt." Her words have stayed with me for years, and that's why I'm telling you this now, so you never have to carry that kind of regret. You might be wondering, why do doctors always say, no food, no drink, until swallowing is checked? It's because during a stroke, the brain may lose control of something as simple, as automatic, as swallowing. What you and I do effortlessly every day can suddenly turn into a deadly risk. Medical studies have proven that giving food or water too soon dramatically increases the chance of choking, pneumonia, or even death. And all of it stems from our human instinct to act immediately. But here's what I want you to remember. In a stroke, the most powerful way to help isn't by giving water, food, or trying home remedies. The real act of love is protecting them, calling emergency services right away, and waiting for trained medical professionals to arrive. Let the doctors test swallowing. Let modern medicine take its course. That's how you truly protect the person you love. I know, it's hard. Watching someone you care about struggle, lying helpless. It feels unbearable to do nothing. But sometimes, love is about restraint. Sometimes the most loving act is not rushing to feed, not rushing to give water, but picking up the phone and calling 911. Because one spoonful of water could take a life, but one phone call can save it. So the next time you see someone fall into a stroke, I hope you'll remember this moment, this story. I hope you'll choose calm over panic, wisdom over instinct. Love isn't always in what we do quick. 7. Not recognizing the early signs of fast. There's something that has weighed heavily on me throughout my years in medicine. So many people miss the golden moment when a stroke strikes simply because they don't know how to recognize the first signs. And sometimes just a few minutes of hesitation can change a life forever. I want you to imagine this. You're sitting at the kitchen table, sharing a cup of coffee with your spouse. Suddenly their smile looks crooked, one side of the face drooping. You call their name, but the words that come back sound slurred, almost impossible to understand. You ask them to raise both arms, and you notice one arm keeps falling, no matter how hard they try. In that moment, what would you do? Here in the US, we have a simple tool that has saved countless lives. It's called FAST. F, face. One side of the face droops. A, arms. One arm drifts downward and can't be lifted. S, speech. Slurred, hard to understand words. T, time. Call 911 immediately. FAST isn't just a medical acronym, it's a reminder that time is life. Research shows that every minute a stroke goes untreated, millions of brain cells die. That means every second we wait, the window for recovery closes, just a little more. I once cared for a man in his 60s who was watching a baseball game with his family. All of a sudden, his speech became garbled. His family thought he was joking or just tired. They waited nearly an hour before calling 911. By the time he arrived at the hospital, the chance to give him a clot-busting medication, a treatment that could have saved his brain, was gone. He survived, but he never walked the same again. His wife later held my hand and whispered, "If only I had known, if only I had acted sooner." I don't share this to scare you, but to remind you, recognizing the signs is the key. If you ever see a loved one's face droop, an arm go weak, or their words sound strange, don't wait. Don't wonder if it will pass. Call for help immediately. You will never regret acting fast. But you may carry the weight of regret if you hesitate. Have you ever had that moment of uncertainty, wondering if something was serious or just a passing spell? I want you to carry fast in your memory, like a reflex, because one day knowing it might mean the difference between loss and life, between silence and hearing your loved one's voice again. 8. Thinking it's safe once the episode passes. There's something that has always weighed on me as a doctor. Many people believe that when the dizziness, the numbness, or the slurred speech goes away after a few minutes, then everything must be fine. But the truth is, it's not that simple. I want you to imagine this. You're taking a quiet evening walk, when suddenly one side of your leg feels heavy, your steps become unsteady, you panic for a moment, but then, just like that, the feeling disappears. You breathe a sigh of relief, telling yourself, maybe I was just tired. But what your body just gave you was not relief. It was a warning. That brief episode could be something we call a TIA, a transient ischemic attack. And a TIA is not the end of the story. It's more like a knock on the door before the storm arrives, a storm that could be a major stroke. I once treated a man in his 50s. He told me that just days before his stroke, he had a strange numbness in his right hand. It lasted maybe 10 minutes. When it went away, he thought, I'm fine now, no big deal. But 2 days later, he collapsed in his living room. This time, he couldn't get back up. His wife looked at me with tears and said, if we had known that was a warning, maybe things would have been different. Here's what I want you to take to heart. Our bodies are wise. They often whisper before they scream. A TIA is a whisper, a warning bell. But a bell only matters if we pay attention and respond. You might be asking, but doctor, if I feel better afterward, do I really need to worry? And the answer is yes. Studies have shown that after a TIA, the risk of a real stroke within 48 hours can rise dramatically. In other words, the moment you think you're safest, you may actually be standing right at the edge of danger. I know, after 50, many of us like to brush things off. It's just blood pressure acting up. I'll drink some water and rest. But please, don't let that small comfort rob you of years of health, of laughter, of memories with your family. Have you ever seen a loved one confined to bed after a stroke? The pain isn't just for the patient. It ripples through every person who loves them. Stroke is a race against time. When the warning signs appear, treat them like a golden opportunity to prevent something far worse. Don't wait. Don't dismiss it. Get checked immediately. Sometimes, that one decision, choosing to act, can save not just your life, but the life you've built with those you love. And let me close with this heartfelt reminder. If you or someone you love is over 40, don't let these mistakes steal away your chance at life. Learn the signs, act quickly, and call for help when needed. And if this video resonates with you, please share it with your friends and family. Because one day, it might be you, or someone you love, who has the chance to save a life in a single, fleeting moment.